This is super relevant, and I hope that everyone's tuning in really closely here. This is about overcoming imposter syndrome, right? So many of us feel this guilt or this whatever about being successful. And I love what you're saying. Ask for it, connect, and then when the moment arises, don't think, oh, do I deserve this? You just go for it.
Right.
You ordered the food, now eat it kind of thing, right? And I think that's a huge
great way of putting
key.
it. I like that, Buster. A great way of putting it.
Yeah, you've done the thing, step into it, stop thinking, do I deserve this? Is this right? No. Just go for it. Welcome to Reach. This is a show for podcasters who are not only trying to grow an amazing show, but they actually want to make money. I'm excited to share with you the secrets that I've learned along the way, as well as introduce you to some amazing guests who are going to really help you take your show to the next level. I'm your host, Brunson Smith. Let's dive in. It's Dr. Barrett. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Man, I'm to be here, Brunson. Great to see you again, man.
Likewise. Well, I kind of want everyone to hear about the doctor story because when you told it to me, I was like, this is the craziest story. So how did you go from Barrett Matthews to Dr. Barrett Matthews?
Okay, here we go. So I used to host an online radio show. It was called the Black CEO Morning Show. And one of my co-hosts was Dr. Ruben West, and we had several other co-hosts on there. And then we had one guest. His name is Dr. Clyde Rivers. And he has an organization called I Change Nations, and they promote civility all around the world. They just want everybody to be civil all around. Great organization. He does great work. And then Dr. West, who is a speaker's coach, he did an event called Black Belt Speakers. If you're training in martial arts, he is a black belt martial arts, actually like a really award-winning martial artist. But he also trains speakers. Now, he did this event called Black Belt Speakers. I'd been to the event before, but he asked me, if I was coming to the next one. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, I'm coming. He confirmed with me I was coming. So I said, yeah, I was coming. I went there. It was totally different than the time before. This one was more like, it wasn't as much speaker training as it was like an award ceremony. A lot of people were getting awards. And I remember sitting next to a friend of mine, Dr. Kenneth Thickpen. I asked her about an award. She said, yeah, we all kind of knew we were getting awards here. That's why we came. I said, oh, okay. They called her up. She got her award. And then Dr. West, he gets up and he starts announcing this Distinguished Leadership Award. And he was talking about the person getting the award. They've been active in a lot of things in leadership. They've been meeting a lot of people and so forth. And Dr. Rivers was with them. And the person who got the award was me. I was, my friend, she said, you didn't tell me you were getting the award. I said, I didn't know. I didn't know I was getting an award. A little while later, I got another award. This was why Dr. West was confirming that I was coming. What happened? So later, I got a chance to sit with Dr. Rivers. We had like 10 minutes to meet with him. And my 10 minutes ended up being 20. They literally had to pull us apart because we were having that good of a meeting. And he was a visionary, great stuff. Then we talked some more of that night at the bar, and he was telling me about the award that I should get a press release done and so forth. And then I'm from the DC area. He was in DC. He told me he was going to be there. So I met him in the lobby of the hotel he was staying, and we talked for a while, and he said, I want you to write a book. So I'd written a couple books before I could write another book. He said, I want you to write this on execution. Okay. And he said, I also want you to put more of an international feel to it to let people know about doing business in other countries. And I said, okay. And he said, and it might even be an honorary doctorate in it for you. I'm like, yeah, okay. And he kind of looked at the expression on my face and he goes, you don't know who you're talking to, do you? And I said, so long story short, I wrote the book and I sent him copies of it. And he said he was going to distribute the book to different leaders all around the world that he meets with. I'm just like,
wow.
So COVID comes. And around April 2020, I'm walking around my block, just getting some air, and my phone dings. And I look at my phone. It's a diploma, that the one you see over my shoulder right here. And basically, it's I've received an honorary doctorate degree from the school in which he is the chancellor. Did not know who I was talking to.
Oh my goodness.
He was the chancellor of the university. It's in Africa. He's the chancellor of the university. Dings again a couple minutes later, and he see above that one, the certificate above that one, and he named me a World Civility Ambassador with his organization, I Change Nations. And pretty much how I became a doctor.
That is just wild. Well, and it speaks a lot to the way that you've focused on giving, right? And that's something that I've, from our conversation, it became really evident to me was that you've just, and I think I'd love to actually hear some of your thoughts on this and how people can grow a business through giving. But that's what I noticed. It was so profound. It was like Barrett just is always seeking to serve, and good things seem to find him. Do you have any more thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree that's different ways you can lead. I consider myself a servant leader. And because I realize that as long as I focus on giving, God will bless. And I'm not worried about the other things because God will take care of me because what he wants me to. And it's funny because prior to that event where I met with Dr. Rivers at the Black Belt Speakers event, prior to that, I prayed that God would put me in position to make an impact in the world. And then these things start coming. I mean, even still, Dr. Rivers has been named a king now in a certain region of Ghana. And he asked me to be one of his royal advisors. I'm actually royalty now. I'm a royal advisor to a king. So it's like, this is something I never dreamt would, but yeah, I'm just serving and it's doing what I'm supposed to do, man. It's not about, what can I get out of it? Because I'm really just trying to make sure I don't mess it up. I want to do the right thing. Do the right thing, because it's not something that I never thought I would be in this position, but I'm stepping into it, and I'm loving the opportunity to serve more and more people. Because now I'm not just serving clients, serving country, and it's a really big difference. But I think everyone should take an approach, figure out how they can serve others.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's, it comes back to this concept of as long as the well is poison, it doesn't matter how much water you pull, it's always going to be bad. And people that have a what's in it for me mentality, sooner or later, no matter what kind of face or mask or show you put on, people are going to not want to be around you. You're going to, but if you pull from service and you're like, hey, listen, money aside, I will do what's right for you because it's the right thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that I hope my listeners are really tuning into right now that you just said. It's give first, and crazy things happen in ways that you can't expect, you couldn't predict. Next thing you know, you're royalty in Ghana, right? Like, there's things that like you couldn't have, you couldn't have written that up even, but it happened.
But you got to be ready to step into it when it comes. When the blessings come, you've got to be ready to take hold and step into those things, because I always say, God gives us blessings and gifts. If we don't take advantage of them, he'll give them to someone else. And then we don't have that opportunity anymore. You have to be ready to step into it. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. It may be scary, but as long as you take that first step, the rest will follow. It'll be fine.
When you say be ready to step into it, what does that look like for you? What does it mean to be ready to step into it?
What I mean is this. When I was first asked to be an advisor to the king, I was blown away. I was like, me? Because it comes to me. Why me? That came with it. I had to keep reminding myself, this is what you asked for. This is what you prayed for. And now it's coming to fruition. So if you prayed for it, step into it. And everything else. And it is funny because I decided to step into it. I haven't had a problem. What happens is a lot of us are led by anxiety. When we get a position or an offering to do something like this, anxiety makes us push away from it. And because we're thinking, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? It's funny. One of my mentors, Dr. Myron Golden, he says, anxiety is the biggest cause of procrastination. And he also says that anxiety is also something to make believe. We always say, what if this happens? It's happening. We made it up in our head. So I had to tell myself, look, stop worrying about, can I do this? I was chosen to do this. So that means that people believe I can do this. That also believes that God is answering my prayer, so God believes I can do this, which is even more important than what the people believe. So I stepped into it, but I had to get my mind ready to do that. And I've had people ask me, so are you going to do it? I said, I have to do it. This is what I was called to do. I have to do this. And so excited about, what to come with it, the things that we're going to do, the lives we're going to help, and, the changes we're going to put into place that make things better for other people. So I'm just excited about just doing that and stepping into that.
I love that. And this is actually, it's funny, this wasn't necessarily what we planned about talking today, or what we planned on talking about today, but this is super relevant, and I hope that everyone's tuning in really closely here. This is about overcoming imposter syndrome, right? So many of us feel this guilt or this whatever about being successful. And I love what you're saying. Ask for it, connect, and then when the moment arises, don't think, oh, do I deserve this? You just go for it.
Right.
You ordered the food, now eat it, kind of thing, right? And I think that's a huge
great way of
key.
putting it. I like that, Buster. A great way of putting it.
Yeah, you've done the thing. Step into it. Stop thinking, do I deserve this? Is this right? No. Just go for it. And I think that that's so critical. And I've suffered a lot with imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? Who am I to do that? And I'm sure for you, who am I to be the royal advisor? You asked for it. Just go for it. And in my own theology, there's a really cool phrase, and it's, God will shape the back to bear the burden. I know some of our listeners, they all believe their own way, but the universe, whatever you want to say, but I really do believe things will be shaped. Your back will be shaped to bear the burdens that are put on it. And so I love that. Step into it and just go for it, and stop worrying about whether or not you deserve it or whether or not it's, you can do it. It all comes together. So, well, let's kind of shift gears here a little bit. So I want to talk a little about one of your other great gifts, communication and speaking specifically. As you've done, you've had an extensive career in this, but I'm kind of curious, if you were talking to someone who's, let's just say they've got 50 episodes published on their podcast and they're trying to really level up their skills in speaking and communicating, what kind of things come to mind that would really help them move in that direction?
One thing is, don't be afraid to invest in yourself. What I did, invested in training from speaker coaches. I literally, in 1 year, went to 3 separate speaker coaches. I did that because I know they all taught different things. One taught me how to comprise my presentation and how to pull presentations from almost anything in life and how to convey it succinctly. Another one told me how to own the stage and how to just make the audience want to pay attention to me no matter what I was doing, whether it's a 2-minute presentation or a 2-hour presentation. The other one taught me how to sell from the stage, how to make money from the stage. So I did that all in 1 year because I knew they taught different things and they were all successful. So I wanted to learn from each one of them and put that into what I do. So I tell people, if you want to really get better at speaking, go to people who are doing well and learn from them. But be willing to invest in yourself. You can't expect people to invest in you if you're not willing to invest in you.
I love that. As far as let's just say, we've got coaches. Is there any particular programs? Toastmasters, any of those? Do you recommend any of those? Or do you specifically say, hey, go find an actual mentor?
I always recommend Toastmasters to people. I've never gone through Toastmasters, but I know several people who have. Because one of the things that one of my coaches taught me is that if you have an opportunity to speak. So when someone says to you, hey, is anybody here that wants to say a few words? Raise your hand, get up and speak, because you never know what's happening. I remember doing that on conference calls because I remembered that. I was on conference calls and the person at the end, and we've all done this, the person at the end will say, hey, does anyone have any questions or comments at the end? I may not have had any comments or questions. I did say, hey, I want to thank you. And I want to say this, I want to say that, whatever, about what I heard. Because I've had this happen a few times. Someone has said to me, hold on, you're Barrett Matthews. I remember you on the conference call, because I said that. So you never know what you saying there. That's a few words may do to someone. It may inspire them to want to talk to you further. It may make them want to follow you for what you're doing by getting out there, spreading your message, no matter how big or how small it is, on a platform. When someone gives you an opportunity, take it. And don't hog it. Take it. Take the opportunity. I remember someone talking about the Clubhouse app. And when someone invites you on Clubhouse to say a few words, and then leave something of a mic drop statement, and then leave. Because if you know, on Clubhouse, people can follow you, and then they can decide if they want to get together with you. But if you hog the whole mic when it wasn't your Clubhouse, it leaves a bad impression on people. So make sure you get, succinct points, speak, and get off of there. But as far as your question, Toastmaster, any other types of speaking organizations that give you opportunity to not only hone your skill, but an opportunity to speak, I strongly suggest taking advantage of it, because that's the only way you're going to get better, is by doing it.
I love that. And something, that I've learned as well is that as you kind of open your mouth, sometimes words will appear, right?
Yes.
And that's,
true.
For those that are a little bit hesitant and have some communication skills, I love that. It's just like, just talk, just get yourself out there and get those repetitions in.
One thing, the more you're around people who really know what they're doing, like I mentioned, I studied under Dr. Ruben West. Dr. West, he did one thing that made me very aware of verbal filler, like ums and ahs and so forth. Because what we would do, all these people in a room, maybe 50 to 60 people in a room. And if you're speaking and you say, and the whole room would go, you say, the whole room goes, you become very aware that you're speaking, because you don't want the whole room repeating it.
That's the course I need to take. I am so bad about my ums and ahs. Oh, it's funny. Well, this is another thing to do too, if for those listening at home right now. If you ever put your audio into Descript or anything that transcribes what you're talking about, it's so funny because I have almost a metric now. How many ums and ahs does these scripts say I have? And it's hilarious.
Really?
It's always a ton. But I'm becoming a little more aware of it, a little more careful. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, I'm seeing that number get a little smaller each and every time. So yeah, in some ways that's one way. So for those of you that are listening, that maybe even edit your own audio, yeah, you're going to know. You're going to know for sure. So that's wonderful. Another question I had for you. How do we really create an awesome strategy in terms of podcasts? We're going to kind of shift gears over to the podcasting space. Same situation. We've got someone who really wants to become a pretty good podcaster. Their goal is not just to grow and be large. And that's my audience, hopefully, right? Hope you're all listening. The goal is not to get tons of likes. The goal is to make conversion. We can have a small audience, but still kill it. Anyway, so for someone in that situation, you talked a little about kind of an exit strategy. What kind of advice would you give someone in terms of, here's how to prepare for an exit. Here's what exiting should look like in terms of podcasting. What thoughts do you have there?
Well, as far as your podcast, if your goal is to convert and make money with it, you have to embrace sales. The one thing you have to do. I hear people say, I don't like sales. I always tell people, when they say that to me, I say, you're lying. There's not a person on earth who has made a sale and said, I hate it. So you don't hate sales. You may hate rejection. And I get that. Nobody likes to be rejected. But no one hates sales. So first change your language around that. Now, if you can embrace the fact that sales are good, because there's nothing that you have right now without sales. And you can go into it, your podcast, saying, "I can use this as a method of which you can make sales." If you have a product or a service, and I've had people ask me this before, Brunson, they go, "Well, can I sell on my podcast?" And I say, "You better. It's your podcast. It's yours. You better sell what you do on your podcast." Now, this does not mean you stuff it down their face every chance you get. You give them a lot of value, you give them tons of value, and then you can make an offer to get people to purchase something. What else you can do is have guests on your podcast who may have a product or service, and you can be an affiliate of theirs. That's another way to make money. A lot of people make money is doing that all the time on their podcast. You can also have guests on your podcast and make them affiliate of your product. So when they leave, they can offer something.
Right.
You can always find a way to do that on your podcast. Now, another thing you can do is have sponsors. Have people run ads on your podcast. Now, some of the podcast hosting sites do dynamic ads where they will put sponsors in your podcast and you can make some money off of it. Then you can actually go out and get sponsors. The pop in podcasting would have you do a method that I really don't think worked for most people, which is you a certain number of downloads on your podcast and you'll attract sponsors. This is true, but the number of downloads you have to get is kind of ridiculous because most people aren't going to get that. You're talking Joe Rogan numbers.
Right.
Most people aren't going to get that. But here's the thing. Most of us, we know people who have businesses. Talk to the people that you know who have businesses. Ask them, "Hey, would you like to be a sponsor of my podcast? You can have a season commercial on your podcast for a certain period of time every week for a certain number of time. You pay me for that." It's a lot less than they pay for radio in most cases, and they can still get people eyes and ears on what they do. Another thing, instead of sponsor, it's partnership. Now, people like to think that's the same thing. It's totally different. For instance, a sponsor, I may be running a commercial for them on my podcast. And a partner, not only am I running a commercial for them, I'm listing them as a partner in my email, in every communication. If I'm speaking on a stage, I'm mentioning them as my partner. They have a banner up for them because my job for that partner is to get them clients, not just to give them exposure. I'm looking for clients that I am working. So what they're going to invest to do that is a lot more than what a sponsor would, but these are other ways you can make money. You can do all of these. You can do all of these on your podcast to make money and make it so that it can just cycle itself so that you can have it working for you. Now, to your question about exiting, you can also have now this may sound strange to people, but you can have other hosts of your podcast. If you brand your podcast to where it is an entity in itself and it doesn't revolve around you, if the entity of itself, so you can have other hosts for the podcast while you can go do things. You can make it your job just to go around finding partners while the other person hosts the show. It just takes out the time that you have to host the show. You can have that other person find the guest or whatever, however you want to do it. But the thing is, you can focus on other things like making money for the podcast while other people are hosting the podcast. It doesn't necessarily have to revolve around you. It can be the brand of the podcast itself. Those are ways that you can actually convert. And you can, one other thing I forgot to mention. You want to do video. You want to do video and say specifically YouTube. Post your episodes to YouTube. But why it's important? As I mentioned, the populace would have us believe we have to get a lot of downloads, audio downloads. Here's the problem. I could get 100,000 audio downloads and I don't know how to follow up with one because I don't get any information. I can have a YouTube channel and if Brunson supports my YouTube channel, I get a notification. Then Brunson supports your YouTube channel. So now I can reach back out to Brunson and say, "Hey man, welcome to the podcast. Hey, I got a free gift for you. Click here." Once he clicked there on a landing page, I got his information. Now he's in my cycle. I can follow up with. Well, I can't just do that with audio. So honest, I would rather have 100 subscribers on YouTube than 100,000 downloads on audio. I know that sounds crazy, because they're teaching it to download. If I can follow up with someone, I can make a sale. I can make money.
Yes.
Yeah, so in answer to your question, that's what I have for them.
Yeah. It's, again, do you want likes or do you want dollars? And that's, I think, the question people have to ask themselves is,
I like dollars.
You can yeah, exactly. Right. And I spoke to Josh Tapp about this, and that's what he taught me early on as well, is, hey, listen, you can be famous or you can be rich. So pick one.
Pick one.
Some people can do both. He's like, but really, you got to pick one strategy or the other.
I learned about partnerships from Justin Shane.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Barrett, for coming on the show, sharing your insight. For those that want to get in touch with you and want to learn more about, it's Boss Media, correct?
Media Boss Pro.
Media Boss Pro. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you or learn more about what you do?
They can simply go to MediaBossPro.com. Real simple. Or me at Dr. Barrett Matthews on LinkedIn as well. And
awesome.
Have a time to talk. We can have time to talk.
Awesome. And I'll put a plug in here. Barrett is just one of the most genuine guys you'll talk to. I mean, if you want someone who's just like feels so human, this is your guy. So big shout out to you on that, and just massive props for just being just a good human being. I think that's
buddy.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that comes through very clear with everyone that meets with you. So thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to another episode. I'm so grateful for your support. If anything on this show was valuable to you, I have one huge ask. That's just share it with your friends. And if you have a little extra time, go ahead and leave me a review. That's my big ask for you guys. We'll see you on the next episode.